Namaskar. Welcome to Prakash on Basics. I'm Prakash Zog, and we've been talking of a lot of topics on science. From today, um, I'm going to talk of a new area. Our human body has around 30 to 40 trillion cells. Trillion, 1 trillion is 1000 billion or a million million. All this is more than 5,000 times the total world population. Um, and all this is one organism. It has to think, it has to act, it has to respond, it has to live like a single unit. Um, and so there has to be transfer, sharing, exchange of many things: information, energy, heat, food, materials, ions, and so forth. I talked of the nervous system long back when I was discussing the heart and the brain. Um, uh, it deals with how information gets transferred within our body or within any organism. This obviously, as I told you then, is extremely fast by electrical impulses or voltage fluctuations. Um, and these are in millivolts. Um, they produce an impulse which travels along the nervous system. Mm. It is by changes in the concentration levels of ions of potassium, sodium, chlorine, uh, Mg, magnesium. Um, it develops an action potential um, and results into the impulse that I talked of. Um, but here, only information gets transferred either from the brain to the different parts of the body or from the parts of the body back to the brain itself. I discussed this in detail long back. Um, but for a body to live, to function, to develop, etc., food, mass, matter also needs to be suitably transferred and moved around within the body. Our human body is anywhere between 50 to 100 kg, anywhere between 4 to 6 feet. Um, and these cells are in nanograms, that is 10 raised to minus 9, that is a billionth of a gram. And the size anywhere between 10 to 30 micrometers or microns. Some are bigger, but let's keep that aside. Mm. So, if you if you think of the Earth as a human being, uh, this is what we need to do is to transport extremely accurately uh, things with a system between all the living organisms of the Earth continuously, lifelong, uh, and with great accuracy. Just imagine how complicated all this will be. And this has to go on uninterrupted till the species or the human being dies. Uh, so, for a human being, we need something different. One of the easiest methods of transferring things from one point to the other is by means of convection, which takes place in case of fluids or liquids. So, we need a circulatory system suitably evolved that can take care of this. And the fluid medium that is used in this for transport is our blood. So from today, let us know about the basics of this vital fluid within our body, what we commonly call as blood. Let's talk in terms of break it down into why and then what is it and what are its different types and so forth. Mm, First of all, why do we need blood? What does it do? What are its functions? Let's concentrate on that today. The first and the most important function of the blood is to transport and distribute things within the body. What does it have to transport? Basically, it has to transport energy, but also matter in terms of mass, in terms of ions, and so forth. Oxygen, nutrients, ions, glucose, amino acids, fatty acids, hormones, antibodies. They are all moved to different cells from their points of production by blood. Oxygen from the external source, that is air, into alveoli. I talked of this when we discussed lungs, um, and via the heart, this oxygen then finally reaches every part of the body. The nutrients are absorbed within the stomach, proteins and carbohydrates and minerals and fats, vitamins. All that is absorbed from food enters into the blood, mostly glucose, as we talked of when we discussed food, and ions also. And all these are absorbed and then moved around again by the blood. Actually, some of the amino acids and fatty acids are produced in the liver. Uh, so it has to be taken from the liver and passed on to the various parts of the body. The hormones are produced by certain glands known as the endocrine glands. So the blood has to collect it from there and pass it on to different parts of the cells. Uh, Liver, of course, as I said, converts some of these food materials into amino acids. Rest are directly absorbed from the blood, from the food itself. Um, and all this stuff that I am talking of has to be blood soluble, or it must be in the form of particles that are so small that they can be transported easily by the medium, which is the blood. Uh, Now, what happens? And the oxygen and the other stuff, I told you when we talked of how food is utilized, that it finally breaks down in the cells, in the muscles, in the tissues, and releases the necessary amount of energy for the cells and the parts of the body to function. In the process of this breakdown, it produces carbon dioxide, urea, lactic acid, which are all parts of the waste that is produced. It cannot be directly used as it is. It has to be transported back as waste material by blood. So from the cells, the blood collects all this, and then takes it down to the kidneys. The kidneys filter this impure blood, remove all this waste, all these toxins that are present, clarify blood, and make it suitable to be recirculated once more and utilized once more by the body. If the kidneys fail, then the process of filtration has to go on. Otherwise, the toxins will increase. So, what humans have now developed is an artificial method of external filtration of blood. And that some of us have heard the word, which is known as dialysis. But that's not our topic today. So let's go back to blood. Um, the transport is expected to be immediate in case of an emergency. Um, special material has to be transferred, or it could be long term transport of material, like material that is transferred to be stored as fat in different parts of the body, or it could be glucose that has to be transported immediately to muscles for person running around and so forth, or the hormones which are to be transported immediately. The second major function is regulation, that is control or maintaining the correct state. This is done of two things: one, temperature, and the second is a factor known as the pH at different points. The body works, consumes energy, generates heat. The heat within the body is transferred by the flowing of blood to different parts. The movement of the blood to different parts, to the nose, to limbs, to various ends of the body, all results in transfer of heat either from them towards the central region or vice versa. If you're in an extremely cold country, maybe Siberia, I hope you've heard of Yakutsk, the coldest town in the world. They say that if you walk out and keep your mouth or rather uncovered, you would get frostbite, and after some time, parts, tips, limbs of your limbs will stop functioning because they will get cold, numb, and just die away. To prevent that, the blood keeps circulating. So even if it gets cold and if you hold things together, the circulating blood inside ensures that heat from the central area is transferred to these ends that have got cold. It could be the other way around. Good amount of sunlight falling on our head could heat our head up. It could be problematic if the temperature of the brain and surrounding area starts increasing. So the blood flow increases, and this heat is conducted away from these parts. Also, if you start using the brain a little too much, a lot of mental activity, then it starts consuming more amount of energy. Its temperature starts rising, and so blood has to circulate again to a large extent. Roughly around 25% of all the oxygen that we use actually goes to the brain, because it is the brain that really controls everything. So this maintenance of temperature is a very vital factor, because all biochemical processes that are within our body work at our body temperature. Most efficiently they work at our body temperature, which is around 36.5 degrees Celsius, or 96, 97, 98 degrees Fahrenheit. It fluctuates a little bit, even 36 to 30, 35, 36 degrees Celsius and so forth. So this temperature has to be maintained. Now, to maintain this in different parts of the body, the blood is the one that is transferring this amount of heat energy from one section to another. There is one more factor, the second one that I mentioned, and this is the pH. pH is this is a typical term in physics and chemistry, science basically. It is a number used to express the level of hydrogen ions or OH ion concentration within any fluid or a liquid. Actually, that decides on the liquid being either acidic or basic or neutral. 7 is neutral. If the value of pH is less than 7, then it is acidic. And if the value is more than 7 up to 14, then the material is said to be basic. Our blood is slightly alkaline, that is slightly basic. Its pH value is around 7.35. That's why, it's all soapy to, our blood is soapy to touch, because all bases are soapy to touch. Um, but there are different organs within our body where acids are required. Stomach, for digestion process, needs acids. There are many other amino acids and others that are also present. And because of this, the local region somewhere might have its pH value rising to a higher level. To prevent this, the blood circulates in that area and ensures the value is reduced or maintained to its desired level. Our urine, for example, has a great fluctuation of the amount of pH values. It could be acidic or it could be alkaline and so forth. And many things can be detected because of that. So as the blood circulates, while filtering out, all these acidic materials are all dumped out, or alkaline materials are dumped out, so that the base region in the center remains what is desired or required. So the control of pH, which is a vital requirement for all biochemical reactions, is done by blood. Because if the pH is disturbed, so are the various chemical reactions, and so is the functioning of the body itself. The third major function is prevention and protection. This is twofold actually. The first step is prevention and protection of blood itself. And this takes place on the basis of a certain process known as coagulation. If there is a wound and the blood flows out, there is nothing to conduct energy. There is nothing to conduct anything left. So no blood implies certain death. So in case of any wound, the first step is to stop that flow of blood. So what happens is, by special mechanisms, the blood immediately begins to clot at that point, and the bleeding is stopped. The loss of blood is stopped. How? Um, I'll explain a little later, not now. So it is this prevention of loss of blood, that is one of the, by coagulation, that is forming clots, is an equally important phenomenon of blood. And then it has to resist, and resist a lot of things. Um, we are aware that there are fungi and bacteria and viruses, and they could be very harmful to our body. If they enter our body, um, it could be either fatal or it could be pretty disturbing. So somebody has to fight against them, and that fighting mechanism involves certain cells which are known as white blood corpuscles, WBC, and special cells known as the antibodies. But wherever they are created, they have to be taken to the precise place where the problem takes place. Because if there is a wound and it starts festering, or there is some infection there, so there's no point in having WBC somewhere else. It has to be transported all the way up to this particular point. And that transport mechanism is again done by blood. So blood transfers or transports all these protective mechanism materials to the area of conflict, or where protection is required. Uh, Not only that, whatever waste is produced during the process of conflict there has also to be filtered out and separated. There is one more major aspect. Though it is a part of what I have been talking of, it has a special requirement. Our body needs hormones to trigger on or off a variety of processes or from different parts of the body at different times under different situations. Such chemicals are typically referred to as hormones. They are triggers, basically, chemical triggers. They are produced in special organs, and for this, there is a special body system which is known as the endocrine system. And the glands where they are produced are known as the endocrine glands. Pituitary, thyroid, parathyroid, hypothalamus, pineal gland, ovaries, testes, all these are all endocrine glands and they produce secretions or hormones. And these are to be transported to different areas as and when required. Our metabolism, our growth, our sleep, our hunger, our fear, our moods, achieving puberty, the reproductive processes. These are all controlled by hormones that have to be released at specific times. So these chemical triggers or hormones are to be transported by blood to the different desired organs from the endocrine glands, which is obviously their production point. The amount has to be precise. The amount has to be given at a precise time. The amount has to be stopped or removed from that point at a precise time. And all this is through a fluid, which is the blood. Sometimes these hormones required are immediate. Um, Sometimes there is a temporary requirement. You could have extreme anger or tendency to fight, and all this is by immediate triggering of certain hormones. Um, there could be a temporary requirement of certain hormones which will put you to sleep. There could be some long term hormones which control our growth mechanisms. There could be some that are released daily, like the sleep system or the hunger system, and so forth. And some could be monthly, like the periodic cycles that take place in case of females. Uh, they could be only once in a lifetime, like the growth processes or puberty developments and so forth. So all this has to be precisely controlled and delivered at the exact point by a medium, that is blood. Naturally, all the involved things must be soluble or small enough to be transported by blood, which is a fluid. So naturally, according to physics, it follows all laws of physics also. It has to flow through something. So there are certain tubes that are available within our body, and we have long from school heard of them as arteries and veins, and extremely thin ones known as the capillaries. So every constituent of the blood has to be smaller than the size of the capillary through which they are going to flow. And there are certain principles of exchange of ions or materials known as osmosis and diffusion. set of phenomena that are studied more in physics. Without them, transfer of oxygen or material or glucose or other hormones to different cells may not be possible. There are two or three other factors. Um these deal with hydraulics and fluid dynamics, which are to be applied to blood also. But that's more of a complex process. So let's not go into all that. So this is what the blood does. Major job: transport, protection, maintenance of temperature and pH, transporting hormones, and controlling a lot of mechanisms by transferring things at the exact time. This is what the blood does. If this is not there, nothing will function. So it is our life fluid. Without it, none of us would exist. I know we just see a drop of blood, something red, that's all. It's not that simple. All this that I told you is just what it has to do. What it is going to be our next step. If you have liked whatever I have said, please like and subscribe to this channel. Uh, Read a little more about blood. Read a little more about the terms that I talked of: diffusion and osmosis and so forth. If not, I'll discuss them sometime later. Uh, Pass on this information to your friends. Pass on this knowledge, because that's our main goal. And we need to meet again to discuss what does this blood contain. That I'll do next time. Till then, this is Prakash Zog saying Namaskar.